I see a lot of people make the mistake here of being separated but not legally divorced, even though they know the marriage isn't going to work out and there's no chance that they're ever going to be in a good faith marriage again. If you get a green card, your permanent residence, through marriage, what happens if you're separated or divorced? And to answer this question, which I get all the time, it really depends on when the separation or divorce happens. So I'm gonna break this video up into a couple different scenarios. Let's say you apply for your green card and the separation or divorce happens before your green card interview. Well, that's actually the worst case scenario, and USCIS should deny that adjustment of status application after determining that you're no longer in a good faith marriage. But what I see very frequently is someone will get their initial green card and it's a conditional green card. So both spouses attended the interview, or, during the end of Biden's term, some people got their green cards without an interview. In fact, most of my clients got their green cards without an interview during that time. Not all, but most. So now that they are conditional residents, the marriage breaks down somehow, and they're separated or divorced during that 2-year conditional residency period. At the end of the 2-year conditional residency period, the permanent resident, the green card holder, is supposed to file an I-751 petition to remove the conditions on their green card. And I see a lot of people make the mistake here of being separated but not legally divorced, even though they know the marriage isn't going to work out and there's no chance that they're ever going to be in a good faith marriage again. People just try to wait it out. They try to get their US citizen spouse to sign the I-751 so that they could jointly file it, submit evidence, even though they're not really living together. I've done a bunch of videos on how that's a terrible idea. I posted one like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So if you're in that specific situation, check out that particular video on what to do if you're separated and you need to file the I-751, or you're separated and your I-751 is already pending. My general advice, like the TLDR, is get divorced, because with a divorce certificate, you just need to prove that the marriage was in good faith and you should still be able to keep your permanent residence. It is somewhat fact specific. If there's no evidence, like, we could talk about that during a consultation. But even if you get divorced, you just need to prove that the marriage was in good faith. And I would generally rather you get divorced than down the road, like 3 years after you guys separate, USCIS calls you and your spouse in for an interview and it becomes apparent that you haven't lived together for the last few years. That's a way worse situation. That's how you end up in deportation proceedings. So just keep that in mind. Now, what if your I-751 was already approved and now you want to get separated or divorced? You can. Usually there's no consequence at this point. USCIS has determined that your marriage is in good faith and you've removed the conditions by continuing to show that you were in a good faith marriage, so you should be good to go. The one minor caveat is that when you apply for citizenship, there is a chance that USCIS can revisit the issue of whether that marriage was in good faith. And I'll give you a quick example. I had a client who married a US citizen, got her green card through the US citizen, filed the I-751, got the green card, it got approved. So the conditions on her residency were approved. And in the I-751, she submitted evidence that her and her spouse had a child together, which they did. That's actually true. But then a couple years later, they got divorced. And during the divorce order said that there were no children to the marriage. This was a mistake in the divorce order. I think it was just like shoddy legal work. The attorneys didn't really ask questions, or they filed it themselves. I don't remember exactly. But it was just like a very basic, no-fault divorce, uncontested, where the spouses just wanted to get divorced. They just did the minimum paperwork and filed it, and the court ordered the divorce. That's fine. But now, after that happened, she tries to naturalize. And now USCIS says, we approved your I-751 petition mostly because you guys have a child together. And then the fact that you guys actually had a child together was called into question by this divorce. So now for us to approve your naturalization, we need to see that we properly remove those conditions on your residency. So we want you to prove that this is actually your child in common. And you need to prove that if you want to naturalize. And so we were left scrambling. Ultimately, we decided to do a DNA test and the case got approved. But it's just something to keep in mind. When you apply for naturalization, USCIS can revisit old things that happened, and they can become issues now that it's time to naturalize. All right, guys, I made this video because I get these questions a lot, and I thought, maybe I could help save you a consultation fee if you just watch this video. But if you watch this video and you're even more concerned than ever, you could always schedule a consultation directly with me. My name is Pouyan Darian. I'm an immigration attorney with an office in New York, but I handle these cases nationwide. In fact, most of my clients are not in New York and have only met with me virtually. If you would like to be one of those people, or you just want to get some guidance to see what the best strategy is for your case to help protect you or your loved ones, be sure to schedule a consultation. The booking link is in the video description below, and I would love to speak to you about your case. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe. I create informational videos and just give you the perspective of what's happening on the ground from an immigration lawyer's perspective. If that's something you're interested in, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for another video.